Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to just picture this for a second. You've got the deafening roar of crashing waves, the freezing sting of sea spray hitting your face, and a solid steel deck violently lurching right beneath your boots. Today, we're diving deep into the anatomy of a disaster at sea. We're looking at a totally ruthless environment, one where the elements literally show zero mercy, and where your own 2 feet, well, they can quickly become your absolute biggest vulnerability.
Think about it. On land, walking is just an automatic reflex, right? You don't even think about it. But out on the open ocean, a routine stroll to, say, check a pressure gauge or just head over to the mess hall can become deadly in a split second. Imagine having to fight a 50,000-ton pendulum just to stay upright. When a ship is pitching violently in rough seas, gravity itself kind of becomes the enemy. It turns literally every single step into a massive, high-stakes fight for survival.
And the data on this is honestly terrifying. According to OSHA, nearly half of all reported maritime injuries aren't coming from what you might expect, like massive engine explosions or ship sinking. No, 43% are caused purely by slips, trips, and falls. Just let that sink in. One single wrong step, maybe just stepping on one tiny patch of undetected grease, and a seafarer's entire career or even their life is permanently altered.
Think about the completely unforgiving edge of the sea. Try to picture keeping your balance out there when a massive rogue wave hits in the dead of night. If you were to slip past an unmarked edge or an open rail in conditions like these, you aren't just falling onto a hard floor. No, you're facing a fatal plunge straight into icy, pitch-black waters. And out there, survival is literally measured in mere minutes.
Because the vessel itself honestly acts like a relentless, hidden minefield. You've got seafarers trying to navigate decks that are completely slick with heavy machinery oil, dodging missing grates that are hidden in the deep shadows of the engine room, and trying to climb steep, totally unmaintained stairways. And they're doing all of this while the floor beneath them violently pitches and rolls. It's basically a deadly obstacle course where poor housekeeping and severe weather just create the perfect storm.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the human factor. This is really about when the mind slips before the feet.
So, imagine the constant, deafening hum of the ship's engine vibrating right through your boots after a truly grueling 12-hour shift. Things like extended watchkeeping, rapid port turnarounds, and freezing temperatures severely impair your muscular coordination, not to mention your hazard awareness. When you are rushing to meet a tight deadline or you're just completely exhausted from the unrelenting physical toll of it all, your mind is going to slip first, and your feet, well, they follow right behind.
Now, you might assume it's mostly the rookies getting hurt, right? But it turns out, experience really doesn't grant immunity out here. While ratings are definitely highly susceptible, getting injured 60% more often than officers, the really surprising part is that chief officers and engineers still account for a massive 40% of all officer slip and fall injuries. Able-bodied seamen account for nearly 40% of all ratings injuries, too. It just goes to show that decades at sea can sometimes breed a kind of fatal complacency. The ocean is incredibly dynamic, and the absolute moment a seasoned veteran forgets that, the sea is going to take him down.
That brings us to Section 3, Armor and Engineering. Let's talk about defeating the invisible enemy.
To really fight back against these hazards, the vessel itself basically has to be forged into a suit of armor against the elements. We are talking about some serious, heavy-duty engineering controls being deployed as life-saving weapons. Things like twin-wire arc spray coatings that create these high-friction surfaces even when they're getting pounded by freezing rain. You've also got precise step covers for those terrifying vertical drops, anti-slip ladder rung covers, high-visibility barricades to clearly mark hazards, and really secure trailing handrails and lifelines rigged across those open, wind-battered decks.
But here's the thing. All those ship defenses mean absolutely nothing if you don't have personal armor. Obviously, protective eyewear to block that blinding sea spray is crucial. But your ultimate defense? That's right on your feet. ISO-certified safety boots equipped with advanced slip resistance, waterproofing, and specialized ladder grips are mandatory. Seriously, without those certified outsoles, stepping out onto a wet, moving steel plate is exactly like trying to sprint across black ice.
All right, Section 4, Rules of Survival. It's time to talk about mastering the elements. So, engineering controls and specialized boots are really just the baseline. It's the behavioral techniques that are actually going to keep you alive out there. First up is something called the penguin gait. If you find yourself on an icy or oily surface, you have to radically adapt how you walk. By taking shorter, very deliberate steps, with your toes pointed just slightly outward, you maximize your lateral foot support on that slick steel.
More importantly, it keeps your center of gravity locked directly over your feet. It's basically a tactical maneuver completely designed to prevent you from slipping backward.
Next up is the trailing hand technique. This is absolutely essential for going down those steep, wet stairs. What you do is turn slightly sideways, and you literally trail your strongest hand right behind you on the handrail. Why? Because if a sudden lurch of the ship causes your boots to lose traction, that trailing hand suddenly acts as an instant pivot point. It'll swing your body violently into the rail, which actually absorbs the kinetic energy, rather than pitching you headfirst down the stairs into what could easily be a catastrophic spinal or head injury.
And that brings us perfectly to the absolute golden, non-negotiable rule of the sea. One hand for the ship and one for yourself. Listen, you must never, ever carry heavy tools in both hands while you're navigating companionways or moving across the open deck. You've got to keep at least one hand free at all times to grasp those handrails or lifelines. Need to move gear? Use a tool belt. Use a dynamic hoisting line. But absolutely never sacrifice your physical grip on the ship.
But look, sometimes all those defenses fail. And when a slip actually sends someone over the rail, a truly terrifying countdown begins. Cold water shock can drown a sailor in a matter of minutes, so the response has to be instantaneous. First, you shout "man overboard," and whatever you do, never take your eyes off them. Second, you throw a life ring immediately to give them some buoyancy. And third, call the bridge right away to halt the vessel and get rescue services initiated. In this kind of nightmare scenario, speed is absolute. Every single second literally dictates life or death.
So I really have to ask you, are you treating your next step as if your life depends on it? Because whether you actually work at sea or you're managing safety protocols from the safety of the shore, this reality demands uncompromising situational awareness. It requires a relentless safety culture, one where poor housekeeping is called out instantly, and where hazards, whether that's a missing grate or just a puddle of oil, are fixed immediately, not tomorrow, right now.
Because out at sea, every single step truly matters. It really just takes one patch of oil or one rushed moment on a steep staircase to turn a completely routine shift into a maritime tragedy. You know, you can armor the ship and you can train the crew as much as you want, but the ocean, it never stops moving. So the next time you step onto a steel deck, will you be controlling your environment or will you let the environment control you?